gloom and doom. The economic recovery is strong. Americans remain deeply pessimistic about the economy. A large percentage mistakenly think we're in a recession or will be hit by one this year. As the recovery progresses, there's less and less justification for the drumbeat of negative hot takes and gloomy economic speculation from the media. New York Times headlines such as, "Unemployment is low. Inflation is falling. But what comes next?" are practically a self-parody. The economic evidence paints a very different picture. Employment is historically strong. Not only is unemployment at 3.5%, matching a 50-year low, but black unemployment has dropped to 5%. The black unemployment rate has never been lower. As financial analyst and investor Stephen Ratner puts it, historically, the black unemployment rate has averaged over twice the white rate. Today, the gap between the black and white unemployment rates is among the smallest ever. He adds, to put this in further historical context, in 2010, during the financial crisis, black unemployment hit 17%. And in 1983, another recessionary period, it reached 21%. In other words, the robust recovery has been a rising tide lifting all Americans, including those who might have been left behind in other economic comebacks. As Ratner notes, since January 2020, real, after inflation, incomes of the bottom quartile, households earning $35,000 a year or less, have risen 7%, compared to 2% for those at the top and an average across the economy of 1.3%. President Biden's claim to be building the economy from the bottom up and middle out appears solidly grounded. Administration officials think they can sustain this progress. They argue that policies such as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act make long-term investments. If they are right, and these policies increase productive capacity, the economy will be on a positive trajectory for years to come. But there is more good news. Inflation is dropping. By a lot. The White House in a written statement last week succinctly observed, the annual inflation rate for producers is 2.7%, the lowest rate in more than 2 years. On average, prices set by businesses actually fell last month. This comes on the heels of news that consumer prices are heading in the right direction. Consumer prices fell to an annual increase of 5% in March on a year-to-year basis, down from February's 6% year-to-year. That's the lowest since May 2021. Core inflation, which includes volatile fuel and food prices, increased 0.4% from February, down from a 0.5% increase in the preceding month. However, the Times notes, the overall energy index was 3.5% lower than in February on a seasonally adjusted basis, and down 6.4% from a year earlier. Gasoline prices are down 17.4% from a year earlier, when the shock of Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent oil prices rocketing upward. To give some context, White House Council of Economic Advisers member Heather Bauschy on Wednesday told Yahoo News, this is the 9th month of consistent slowdown in the pace of inflation, so that 5% rate is a slowdown from months before. She continued, we are interpreting this as movement in the right direction, especially when combined with last Friday's labor market data that continues to show strong, steady, stable growth in the job market but at a slower pace. Bauschy also noted that the labor force participation rate has been climbing, 62.6%, a pandemic high, for those aged 16 and older, for prime-age workers, 83.1%, yet what we haven't seen is the kind of wage-price spiral that I think many people were concerned about because of the challenges of so many people coming back into the labor market after the pandemic. You can understand why Republicans have so little to say these days about inflation, which they touted as their big issue in 2022. Given the strong economic performance, Republicans prefer to race down rabbit holes chasing non-scandals and conspiracies. What precisely would Republicans be doing differently that would bring down inflation faster than it is already dropping? How would they push even unemployment lower, when the country is currently considered at full employment? We have no clue, especially since GOP bills, example, rolling back funding for IRS enforcement, would likely widen the federal debt, and their proposal to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act would raise drug prices, including insulin. Worse, in continuing to hold the debt ceiling hostage, they risk unsettling the markets and wrecking the U.S. credit rating, perhaps setting off a recession. The Economist's editor-in-chief, Zani Minton-Beddoes, perfectly encapsulated the gap between many Americans' current economic perception and reality. It's the nature of the news business, and of many of the cover stories that I oversee, to dwell on what is wrong with the world. Nearly 4/5 of Americans tell pollsters that their children will be worse off than they are. In fact, America has sustained its decades-long record as the world's richest, most productive and most innovative big economy. Indeed, it is leaving its peers ever further in the dust. Only those in uber-rich petrostates and financial hubs enjoy a higher income per person. American firms own more than 1/5 of patents registered abroad, more than China and Germany put together. Alking down the American economy is not only wrong in fact, it also breeds pessimistic policies like protectionism, lower immigration and government subsidies that could spoil the secret sauce which has made America so successful. Is there still some economic pain and risk of recession? Of course. But no one reasonably can guarantee universal prosperity indefinitely. Perhaps it is time to concede that the United States is leading the world with a historically vibrant recovery, thanks to smart federal investment, fiscal prudence. The deficit is down over $1.7 trillion in 2 years, a tough-minded Federal Reserve and resilient American workers and businesses. It might not get clicks or attract viewers, but that's an honest assessment of where the nation's economy stands. Stop the gloom and doom. The economic recovery is strong. Americans remain deeply pessimistic about the economy. A large percentage mistakenly think we're in a recession or will be hit by one this year. As the recovery progresses, there's less and less justification for the drumbeat of negative hot takes and gloomy economic speculation from the media. New York Times headlines such as, "Unemployment is low.